So good day everyone, we are group 7 and today we will going to tackle about the chapter 8 which is entitled Strategic Control Mechanism. So the learning outcomes. Particularly at the end of this chapter, the student should be able to first define and explain the meaning of strategic control, classify the types of strategic control according to purpose and approach, distinguishing sequential strategic control from interactive control, analyze the different performance metrics, distinguish profitability measures from liquidity and gearing measures, explain the importance of efficiency and productivity performance, and demonstrate the importance of market and people performance in an organization. Strategic evaluation and control is the last phase of strategic management process. It begins with the organization vision, mission, goals, and objective, and is followed by formulation of strategies. These strategies are then accordingly implemented to ensure that one of the design strategies are correctly and suitability implement. Strategic control mechanism have to be employed. The different is definition of strategic control. The different ways of viewing strategic control, it is a very important component of strategy implementation. Strategic control is the process of monitoring the various strategies of the organization and determining whether there is a parallelism between organizational milieu and that and of the government. As the early emphasized, strategic control should always be discussed and actualized in the context of the environment. That's the word strategy. Strategic control can be categorized from two different perspective according to the purpose and according to process. So strategic control organization maintain focus, allocate resource effectively, and adapt to change in the and in the internal and external environment. Evaluation involves analyzing the outcome of the strategy to determine their effectiveness and relevance. This interactive process allows for continuous improvement, fostering agility and competitiveness. For example, imagine if you have a small restaurant. So the strategy nga pwede nimo compare is to launch a new menu with a healthier option to attract a health and conscious customer. So ang strategic control nimo ani is pag-maintain the regular checking of your new menu if halinon ba, and also to figure out the customer feedback if kung imong bagong menu is worth it ba sa mga customer. If you notice sales aren't increasing as expected, you might adjust your strategy by offering promotion and or tweaking the menu. Diri na musod si strategic evaluation. It involved analyzing the impact of this adjustment on sales and customer satisfaction, helping the restaurant refine its approach to better achieve its goal of expanding its customer base. Type of strategic control. There are four types of strategic control. According to purpose, presupposition control, implementation control, strategic surveillance, and vigilance control. Presupposition control is designed to check systematically and regularly whether the arguments set during the planning and implementation process are still binding. However, since the external environment are continuously changing, there is need to closely monitor the set strategies and make the necessary changes when needed. Implementation control is applied to evaluate whether the intermediate strategies are consistent with the overall strategy. In case when these transitional activities become misaligned for one reason or another, then there is needed to review the reason for such occurrence. Next is strategic surveillance. It's a monitoring system where be a broad range of occurrence inside and outside the organization to retain the implementation of an organization strategy. Surveillance means shadowing, observing, and scrutinizing the milieu. It demands constant awareness, consciousness, and knowledge of how implementation of strategies of the strategy and strategy is fairing. Fourth is the vigilance control. Is a species of strategic control that is applied when immediate reconsideration of an organization's strategies is pursued. This called for when unusual event happen and there is no choice but for the organization to attend to it and to the corresponding changes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the second reporter. My topic is all about types of strategic control according to approach. The strategic control may be from the viewpoint of approach. These strategic control approaches employ the sequential, interactive, or feedback mechanisms. The second one is sequential strategic control is a traditional way of looking at strategic monitoring. It is sequential in that the formulation of strategies is followed progressively by the implementation of these design strategies. Once the strategies have been employed, it is only that strategic monitoring is carried out. Formulate strategies to implementation strategies and strategic control. While sequential strategic control looks simple, straightforward, and less threatening due to its chronological order, the approach does not lend itself to change and versatility. The order is limiting, and as a result, the strategic control does not become beneficial and may sometimes be disadvantageous to the organization. The second one is interactive strategic control. It's the more appropriate approach for strategic control. Described as interactive, this approach shows the communicating and collaborative nature of the processes of strategic formulation, strategy implementation, and strategy control. In other words, as strategies are being formulated, the implementation of the strategies is constantly being evaluated. Strategic control is simultaneously being carried out as a way of determining whether the strategies design and how they are being implemented are systematically and thoroughly assessed. Rather than sequential strategy control, interactive strategy control is advantageous in all aspects. The approach is open in that it takes into consideration the limitless possibilities that may occur in the external and internal environments, and thus opportunities for improvements are easily executed. Ang interactive strategic control mao ni ang nagbibigay daan sa isang organisasyon na maging maliksi at responsibo sa pagbabago ng kapaligiran sa pamamagitan ng masigasig na pagkikipag-ugnayan, pagpapahagi ng impormasyon, mabilisang pagtugon, at pagtataguyod ng kultura ng pagbabago. Ang interactive strategic control mao ni ang kanang magbago sa palibot according to pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga tao, people, o mahatag pog information about unsa ni nga ang business nya mabilisan pagtugon. The third is feedback strategic control is combination of the sequential and interactive approaches. Although strategies formulation, strategy implementation, and strategic monitoring appear to be sequential as shown in figure 8.3, the feedback loop is essentially interactive. Constant feedback are effected with respect to the formulated and implemented strategies. Formulated strategies refers to the process of developing a set of plans and actions that an organization will implement to achieve its goals and objectives. Implement strategies to achieve the desired goals and objectives of the organizations. monitoring of strategy is regularly trading and evaluating the process and effectiveness of implement plans and actions. Financial performance is crucial for assessing the health and sustainability of a business. Market performance is essential for businesses to understand their position within the industry, identify trends, and make informed. Efficiency or productivity performance is crucial for business to optimize operations, minimize waste, and maximize output. People performance is to ensure that employees are meeting expectations, contributing effectively to organizational goals and improvement. The last is performance metrics. Feedback strategy control is accurately measured by performance. Performance is the ratio of the results derived from the resources invested by an organization or by the formula. Financial performance for almost all organizations intent of making profit or at the least continue to excess financial performance is most important. There are different ways of measuring financial performance. Some of these financial metrics include profitability measures, liquidity measures, carrying measures, and other investors measures. These profitability measures are gross profit margin, net profit margin, return on capital employed, and assets turnover.
Profitability measures. Metrics. Gross profit margin. A percentage of turnover, a high gross profit margin is desirable. It indicates either that the sales price are high or that production costs are low. Formula. Operating profit divided by finance costs. Next is net profit margin. A percentage of turnover less all expenses. A high net profit margin is desirable. It indicates either that the sales price are high or that all costs are well kept under control. So, ang iyang formula is net profit divided by turnover times 100. Next is return on capital employed or ROC. Shows that net profit generated every 1 pesos of assets employed. Capital employed is total assets less current liabilities. So, ang iyang formula is net profit divided by capital employed times 100. Yeah. Asset turnover. Shows the turnover generated from every 1 peso of assets employed. A high asset turnover is desirable. So, ang iyang formula is turnover divided by capital employed. Liquidity measures are financial indicators that measure the extent to which an organization has cash to meet immediate and short-term obligations or the ability of its current liabilities. Current ratio, inventory holding period, receivable, debtor collection period, and payables or creditor period are forms of liquidity measures. So, example sa liquidity measures. Metrics. So, current ratio measures the company ability to meet its short-term liabilities as they fall due. A ratio in excess of 1 is desirable. The formula is current assets divided by current liabilities. So, next is inventory holding period. Indicates the average number of days inventory items are held. A decrease in the inventory holding period is desirable. It means that the company is able to sell or turn over its stock keeping unit or SKU. So, formula is inventory divided by cost of sales times 365. So, next is receivables or debtor collection period. Shows the average period it takes a company customers to pay their debts. A decrease in the collection period is desirable. It means that the collection of the company's receivable or credit control is efficient. So, iya formula is receivable turnover, or receivables divided by turnover times 365. So, next is payables creditor period. Shows the average period that it takes a company to pay its debts. A decrease in the payment period is desirable. It means that the company is able to pay for its purchase. Yung formula is payable divided by purchases times 365. Gearing or risk measures and other investment measures. Gearing ratio shows the long-term debts as a percentage of equity. A low level of gearing is desirable where the level of risk is minimized in terms of payments of debts. Formula, debt divided by equity times 100. Interest cover, the operating profit or profit before finance charges and tax, divided by the finance cost. A decrease in the interest cover is desirable where operating profit is higher than the finance cost. Ang formula is operating profit divided by the finance cost. Other investors measures. Earning per share or EPS measures that the profit attributable to each share ideally must show an increase in earnings per share. Formula is profit after tax less preference dividends divided with number of order shares in issue. Dividend cover. An increase in dividend cover means that the company is more able to make dividend payments to shareholders. Formula is net profit divided by dividend. Next is dividend yield. An increase in dividend yield means an increase in return to shareholders. Formula is dividend or share divided by current share price times 100. Particularly, the gearing ratio measures the percentage of capital employed that is financed by debt and long-term financing. The higher the gearing ratio, the higher the dependence on borrowing a long-term financing. And the lower gearing ratio, the higher the dependence on equity financing. Other gearing measures, interest cover. Lastly, other investment measures include earnings per share or EPS, dividend cover, and dividend yield.